Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nidhi and you're watching my series on how to become a cabin crew. And today I have an amazing flight attendant that I connected with very recently on Instagram. Her name is Jane.
Hi.
And she is flying for the national carrier of Australia. She's flying for Qantas. She's been a flight attendant for 10 years, a really, really long time, and I can definitely relate to it. And thank you so much, Jane, for taking time out to, connecting with me on Instagram. She also has a Facebook page where she has over 5,000 followers, where she's trying to basically connect all the flight attendants, so you can actually go to this page and share information, share the love, and also get information if you are somebody who's trying to become a cabin crew. So do join the Facebook page. I'm going to put up the details here, and her Instagram page as well. Do follow her. We're planning to do some live sessions as well. We'll keep you guys posted. But today she's taken some time out to share her personal experiences with us and, you know, talk about her journey a little bit. So let's get to hear from Jane. So Jane, thank you once again for being on this video with me. And well, let's start off by just knowing, you know, what got you motivated 10 years ago to becoming a cabin crew.
Okay, well, my journey to becoming crew, it actually took a few years for me to be employed, but I had returned after living in London. I was in London for 5.5 years. Went over as a backpacker and just stayed for 5.5 years. And when I returned to New Zealand, I was working for my family, and I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. And I wanted to do something that I really enjoyed. I didn't want to just take work that, you know, for the sake of taking work. And there was a receptionist that worked at the motel that my family owned, and she had been Emirates cabin crew, and she said to me, she said, "You should apply for Emirates." She said, "You'd make a fantastic crew member."
Okay.
And that was the first time I'd ever even thought about flight attending as a job that you could do. And then interestingly, just after that happened, there was an Air New Zealand crew staying at my parents' motel, which was quite random because they didn't, you know, they weren't a motel that airlines stayed with.
Okay.
And one of the girls from Air New Zealand had just finished her training, and she said to me, I was telling her, I don't know what I want to do with my life. She said, you should become cabin crew. She said, you would love it, you'd be good at it. And I thought, awesome. You know, this is a good idea. So at that time I started applying. I applied to, so I was living in Auckland at the time in New Zealand. I applied to Air New Zealand, I applied to Emirates, I applied to Virgin Australia, and I applied to Qantas, all at the same time. And sort of nothing happened at that time with the application, and I'd end up working with my parents at their motel. Then I decided to move to Australia, so I moved to Melbourne, and I was in Melbourne for 2 years. While I was in Melbourne, Emirates actually called me forward for their interview process.
Okay.
But at the time, I realised that moving to Dubai wasn't something that I was wanting to do. So I didn't end up going to the interviews. Continued refreshing my application with Qantas, and in 2009 I had moved up to Sydney, and this was during the global financial crisis, so none of the airlines were taking on crew anyway. But it was in Sydney that I took a job for a music media company in a customer service role, and it was a role I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy the company. I took the job because I wanted to get money and income and, you know, to pay the bills. So it wasn't actually a job that I really enjoyed. But one of the days I had to go with my manager. We had to take a flight down to Melbourne, and I remember sitting on the runway at 7 a.m. in the morning next to my manager, who I didn't particularly enjoy either. And I was looking at the Virgin flight attendants running around doing, what flight attendants do. And I thought, oh my God, I do not care about the job I'm doing right now. I want to be a flight attendant. Like, I want to be pouring tea and coffee and, making people feel good about themselves and smiling in the cabin. And that's what I would love to do. So that night I went home and I refreshed my application again for Qantas. And actually it was only like a few weeks later I handed my resignation in at that job with nothing to go to, which was brave or stupid, but that was what I did. And the day after I handed my resignation in at that job, I went into work in the morning and I checked my emails, and Qantas had sent me an email progressing my application. And I think within 5 weeks, or maybe it was 7 weeks, I went through the interview process, and then a few weeks later or maybe it was 5 weeks later, I was in my ground school training. So that was my journey into becoming a flight attendant. So it did actually take a little bit of time to become crew once the idea had come into my mind. But here I am 10 years later, and I don't know if it's similar in Singapore Airlines, but when I started flying, and it's a real joke amongst Qantas crew anyway, we all come thinking we'll fly for 2 years. So everyone comes and says, I'm going to fly for 2 years. I said 2 to 4. I was like, there's no way I'll fly longer than 4 years. I'll get bored. And 10 years later, and there's no thought of leaving at this time. So
I can imagine. Totally. But I do have to tell you that when you actually told me about that whole sitting at the runway, I actually had goosebumps. I'm not kidding. I had goosebumps. I mean, this is what I think when people say that they're passionate about becoming a cabin crew and they really dream of becoming a cabin crew is what it is like. So yeah, I could actually feel that when you were relaying that story. I could actually visualize it. So I think that's really real for you. That meant a lot for you. That it could still give me goosebumps at this point in time listening to this story.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I remember I used to go to a lot of personal development seminars, and actually I still do a lot of personal development, which I think is so important, not just as a human, but it's definitely comes handy in the job we have to do.
Definitely.
And they used to say, you can get paid to do what, you can get paid for your passion. And I used to think, okay, well, what am I good at? I'm good at customer service. And then I thought, what do I love doing? And I was like, well, I love to travel. And I used to think, who is going to pay me to go around the world doing customer service? Because at the time I was temping in corporate, so I used to do work through agencies and corporate and do personal assistant work. And so in my mind, that was what I was thinking, how would I in corporate get into a role like that? It never even... it didn't occur to me that I was going to end up becoming a flight attendant, which is the perfect job for me.
Yep, absolutely. So tell me, how has these 10 years been?
What has it been? It's been really incredible. Actually, I feel a little bit teary when you ask me that. Flying has been a really wonderful job. It is a really wonderful job. And, like I said, a lot of us at Qantas anyway, we also are coming for 2 years, but we stay. And, I know for a lot of people, like when you say I've been flying for 10 years, I know to a lot of people that sounds like a lot. And I often have passengers that say to me, 10 years, gosh, that's a long time. But in Qantas, it's not. In Qantas, it's very junior. So a lot of our crew have been flying that 25 to 35 years.
Oh, wow.
So
it's true for Singapore Airlines as well, actually.
Yeah. So at 20 years, you're still a junior. You're still considered a junior. So at 10 years,
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. At 10 years, I'm nothing. So I'm still not even committed to the job at 10 years. Like, you've got to be around 20 years to even, really be in the gang. So, which is interesting, but I think it says a lot about flying too, because it is a unique job, and being cabin crew, you become part of a unique family. And it's interesting, I noticed during this time too, with a lot of the airlines on the ground, on Instagram, the hashtag United by Wings has come out. It's United by Wings, and I've actually been really enjoying seeing a lot of cabin crew from around the world, because it's one of the things that I know, and you know about the job, is that when you meet someone else who is cabin crew, generally, generally, we are like a big family, and because we understand the unique environment that we work in. And I think my friends, I remember one of my school friends actually came over to Sydney to visit me one time, and she's never lived overseas and hasn't travelled a lot. But we went out for dinner, and I said to her, I'll bring one of the girls from my work, to join us. And so my friend from work came to dinner, and we all had like a really lovely night. And then afterwards, my school friend from New Zealand said, oh, so you've known each other for a long time? And I said, no. I said, we met last week. And she was like, what? And you're acting like you're best friends? And I said, no, we did a Singapore Frankfurt last week. We were away for the whole week together. I'd never met her before, and I said, I don't know if I'll ever fly with her again. But and it was interesting, because I could see, and I often see, people don't understand, cabin crew become fast friends. Absolutely. Because we are family. When you're away from home, the people that you fly with that you may have only met 10 minutes before you've gone into a briefing, they are the people that you rely on to get you through. They are your company, they are your counsellors, they are the person that you go out and have incredible experiences with. You might be the shoulder that they cry on. Absolutely. We really, it's a unique family, and I think that's the part of flying probably that I love the most. I mean, I love the people, I love the passengers, and we've got such amazing crew that the thought of leaving flying would make me feel really sad, simply because of that. All the parts that are not fun are, pale in comparison to when I think of what a wonderful community flying and what a wonderful family flying friends have become. Absolutely, I so agree with you. And for me, the interesting bit is that I'm actually not a travel person. I don't really enjoy traveling. But I loved the 10 years of my flying as a cabin crew, and it's not because I got to travel to different places. It's really because of people that I met. The exact same emotion, and I'm sure we both can relate to it because of the cabin crew family tag. It's truly amazing that you probably would meet this person just 10 minutes ago in a briefing room, but then when it comes to any sort of emergency, you're actually ready to give your life for your crew, for your passengers. And that's the kind of solidarity that cabin crew brings into you, which I think is amazing. You're probably not going to meet that person again. You're probably not going to fly with that person ever again. You're probably not going to meet that passenger ever again, but you're ready to actually give up your life you're going to be the last person who's going to leave the aircraft, even if the aircraft is on fire, and you're going to let everyone else go. So I think it's just amazing. I think what you mentioned there is just really amazing. You did bring a tear to me as well. I wouldn't have left flying as well if I had a choice, but I had my reasons and I had to leave. But going back to whatever little that we spoke, I remember you did mention about the cultural differences whenever you see the Emirates crew or Singapore Airlines crew and you see the Qantas crew. Did you want to share on that a little bit? I think that'll be really exciting for people to hear about, culturally, how cabin crew are different. Yeah, well, I think the thing that I notice, while we have our grooming, what's the word? Our runway guide for grooming. I feel like the emphasis for us, apart from safety, which is obviously Qantas's top value and something that we, it's so highly important to the company, is that Qantas really encourage us to be ourselves. Like they really want us to. They'll give us guidelines for how to look and how they'd like our hair to look and how they'd like our makeup to look. And they give us guidelines for how they, for language that we can use for recovering customers, for situations on board that where people might not be happy, or we might not be able to provide what people are looking for. But I feel like I don't know what I want to say about the grooming for. I feel like Qantas, we're more relaxed in our groom. We look good, but it's not. I feel like we're more relaxed in our grooming. Like we sort of. Actually, we have a lot of Qantas crew that are ex-Emirates crew. So a lot of the Australians, after they've been living in Dubai, they come back to Australia, and I know they all say like they have grooming checks before they go into briefing. So we don't have grooming checks, not officially. I mean, obviously we have to look good. We walk past our crew performance managers, we go into the briefing and we've got our managers there. But we don't have sort of, like I know in Emirates, they've got the Emirates red lipstick and, and they've got their hats, and those things for us are optional. So, I mean, I don't even wear lipstick to work. And I wear quite minimal. We're encouraged to wear natural makeup anyway, so part of our
just the whole outfit and everything, right? Just to look natural, basically.
To look very natural. So so the girls don't wear bright sort of reds or pinks or anything, and even nails. Everything is very natural. They like us to have a more natural look, but they're not. While they give us grooming guides and standards, they're not so rigid. We don't. I feel like ours is quite different. So I know Emirates, they have to wear like the red lipstick.
Definitely.
And probably they're like, I don't even wear foundation. I only wear like a BB cream on my face. So I don't wear powder, or I'm very, very light on my makeup.
Oh wow, do you want to see my makeup?
And in fact, tonight I've got, other than colouring my eyebrows and so that they wouldn't be,
I have everything from primer to foundation to lipstick. Just the bronzer was missing.
Look, I couldn't even claim that I normally wear a lot of makeup. I suppose too, because I haven't had to put on a face of makeup. My last flight arrived into Sydney on the about the 13th of March, and obviously on the 15th of March we were given our stand down. We were told that we would be given stand down notice that we wouldn't be flying for 2 months. So I actually haven't put makeup on, apart from a bit of eyeliner and mascara and doing my eyebrows. Have not put makeup on.
So I have to confess, I think I left Singapore Airlines. I left Singapore Airlines in 2017. And I feel I've put on more makeup ever since I left because of all the YouTube videos and trainings and coachings and everything that I've been doing. But you're absolutely right. In fact, there is this thing that Asian people always say that, all cabin crew of a particular airline in Asia looks exactly the same. If you look at the Singapore Airlines crew, they all pretty much look the same. Like, it's a little bit difficult to distinguish, especially from behind, because everyone has really, really rigid restrictions in terms of the bun size, and we even like have that kind of restriction, like how big can your bun be? It cannot be bigger than certain size. It's down to that particular when it comes to the grooming. So you're absolutely right. So I think that's definitely the main difference. And I think overall, in terms of how we handle people, the Asian hospitality is a little bit different in comparison to the people handling. And I think it's a very cultural thing as well, because you know how the upbringing has been in general of people. Asians tend to take a lot more offense for even smaller things, and I think for free people on that side of the region, they're far more they're far more forgiving and understanding when it comes to how things should be. So
a little bit like the hierarchies aren't as rigid. But that's interesting when you told me. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I suppose too that one of the things about flying is it's useful to be aware of other cultures, because what will work for one culture very easily may not work for the other, and so it is, and it's stuff like that. You pick up as you go along. You start to realise. Actually, and even just with humans, because you realise there's some people, like there might be a passenger that I could touch on their arm when I'm speaking to them, or comforting them, and that would be so appropriate. And then for other people, you wouldn't dare, wouldn't dare touch them. And I think as crew, you actually have to start to be able to read. You've got to it's good to get a little bit of an understanding culturally what people are like, but then you also, as you go along with your work, you start to understand you've got to know when to go in, you've got to know when to go back, you've got to know when people are wanting a lot of service from you and a lot of the show and all the rest of it, and when other people don't want to have anything to do with you because they're not there for the service, they're there to get on with doing whatever they're doing, going from point A to B. So that's stuff that I think it's just experience that helps. One, I think you've got to be naturally tuned into people, and then you will learn as you go along. And you learn by your mistakes too. I've made plenty of mistakes with passengers where I've maybe been a little bit too casual with people that need a little bit of
more emotional touch.
They need things to be a bit more polished. And then there's other people that don't like polish. They don't want any, they love when you are a little bit friendlier with them, or a little bit more of your own personality with them, because they don't. Some people get annoyed when you're trying to give a high level of detailed service because they're not interested in it. And other people absolutely want that. So you've just got to know how to read the crowd.
Yeah, I think that comes with experience for sure as well, and the training plays a part as well. I'm sure when you get into the training, you will. So how long is the training usually for Qantas when you get into the training school?
Wow, I really wish I knew that. My head. I think our training was 5 weeks.
Okay.
I imagine that it's still 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's been a long time since I've done it, and I know they have changed different aspects of. I know they've changed their parts of the interview process, because obviously in 10 years a lot has changed as well.
Absolutely.
So the online interviews, because actually even when I went through, and because we have crew that either work in economy and premium economy, or we work in business and first. And actually, all of us can work in any cabin on any given day.
At the very start of the job, or do you have to wait for a while before you progress to different cabins?
Well, interestingly, when I first started, we started in economy, but they have at different times taken through straight into the premium cabins. And I'm guessing that's demand. There must be gaps, so that at different times that has happened, but it's not usual. Usually you would go and start in economy and premium economy, and then even as a business and first flight attendant, because we can work in either cabin. There are times where we will work in economy or premium economy, and that's all based off, as you know, when you go to work, you're given a door that you'll sit at, whether you're in a door primary or a door assist, and where you are sitting on the aircraft actually relates to what position you'll be doing today. So for business and first, we've got we've got a position we call main one right assist. And you'll do your first service in business class, and your second service you'll do down in premium.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting the way it's very different from how it works here, actually. Yeah.
I even notice, I often notice that people will ask me, even about flying international, they say to me, do you have to fly domestic before you become international cabin crew? And with Qantas, you apply for domestic, or you apply for international. And even though domestic can do some short haul flying, and even international crew at the moment, we've been doing Sydney Auckland returns on the Dreamliner, so that's not normal for us, but it's stuff that we can do. But otherwise we do a long haul. But yeah, I think there's a lot of benefit in working economy before you go into any of the other cabins anyway, because that's where you learn to become a flight attendant. So that's where you get, like in first class, you don't get, medical emergencies, and business class, you get a little bit of it. But economy is where you get people fainting by the bathrooms and, being sick on, they're not feeling well and they're stuck in a middle seat, and people don't feel well, or they come down to the galley and
I agree with you, because that's where the real action happens most of the time.
That is where the action happens, and it's where you really learn to be a flight attendant, and
absolutely.
There's so much value.
Why don't you share with us some of the incidents from your flights, like any experience that anything you want to share. It could be memorable, it could be something that was challenging, share both actually.
Actually, I think one of the most interesting situations I had was, at this time I was working up in business class, but walking through the cabin, something that I never thought I'd have to do, walking through the cabin, and I saw one of the passengers pulling his fist back. He was about to hit another passenger.
Oh, wow.
And lucky for me, I was just actually walking through to go on my break, so it wasn't like I was down there doing anything too exciting, but I just happened to walk through as this was happening, and I managed to grab the man's arm and put it behind his back.
Wow.
And so that was an interesting, and I'll give you the chance. I'm imagining that all airlines are very similar. What would be one of the biggest arguments you'd have between passengers and economy? On Singapore Airlines, what would be the things that people argue with the most when passengers have it?
I think I've had my fair share of experiences. I think one that I really, really remember is when these two passengers were fighting because of the seat recline. Like the passenger in front wanted to recline the seat, and the passenger behind wouldn't let him recline the seat. And
bingo! That's what the argument was about.
Yeah, that was.
There you go. Future crew, that would be working in economy. That will be probably the number one thing you have to deal with, is adults arguing over another adult putting their seat back.
Yes.
So that was what had happened.
So, what exactly happened in your case when that passenger wanted to hit the other passenger?
The passenger, I think it was the people in front. It was there was a couple, and I think the lady had reclined their seat. The man behind wouldn't let them recline. He was putting his hand up in the back of the seat. It's the favourite. It's what they love to do. And it had turned into a big argument. So the gentleman behind had jumped up, and it was just as I was walking through that he went to swing and take a punch. And he was little. It was a Hong Kong flight, so he was just a little guy. And so I managed to get his arm behind his back. But and then I just, it's like that's when you're not so worried about using polite service language. I still was respectable, but I yelled at them.
Safety takes over everything at this point in time. So yes.
Yeah. That's where you have to be assertive. So I let them know that behaviour was not going to be tolerated, and that they would both, if they chose to carry on like that they would be met by police at the other end, and we would not hesitate to have them cuffed. So, but that sorted it out. I think they realised at that point that they were being silly and settled down, and then I just carried on and went on my break.
Okay. What about a memorable incident, something that you truly cherish? I'm sure you have a lot of them, and feel free to share as many as you want, but
look, I'm trying to think if some might spring to mind. I think I can't think of anything specific at the moment, but I know, there's lots of times that we've had passengers on board, like often, I think when people think of people travelling, they think that they're either travelling for work or they're travelling for holidays.
Yeah.
But, as you know, too, a lot of people are travelling for bereavement. I had one lady whose both her parents had just died in a car crash, and she was going, she'd been on holiday and she was going home because she was her parents were away where they'd had the car crash too, so she was going to have to repatriate the bodies, and she was totally traumatised. And, when I think of memorable moments, it's things like sitting with passengers and listening to them, and sometimes they tell you quite difficult things to hear, but actually just being able to sit with people when they're in pain and not trying to make it better for them, and not trying to, not sort of trying to do the things that we all want to do, like, oh, they'll always be with you, and, oh, they've had a good innings, or, say all those sorts of things. Actually just sitting with people that have had trauma and letting them experience it in the way that they are, and actually just being supportive and I don't know, making sure they're hydrated, like just giving them a little bit of care and attention and genuine compassion and warmth, I think. And I think of the times that we've looked after passengers and they've been going home, from maybe they've been sick overseas and they're returning, or maybe they've been sick on the aircraft, or, like, I suppose the things that I love about flying, it's like when a passenger gets off and gives me a hug, I know I've done a really good job.
Yeah, we all live for that, right?
Yeah. So I think those are the memorable things. I mean, I've done wonderful things like, cabin crew, like going out to concerts. Like, I went and saw AC/DC with the crew when we were up in Dallas, and AC/DC are just one of my favourite bands, and I just thought that was just the coolest thing that we'd ever done. And going to big sports events, or spending time out doing, sitting with having beautiful drinks on rooftop bars in LA. And,
oh my God, now I'm missing all of that. No, I don't.
Yeah, doing the glamorous thing. But actually, the thing that cabin crew don't talk about a lot is, like, we'll take pictures of all these wonderful things we do, but what we don't take pictures of a lot of, when I'm sitting in my hotel room, alone at 2 a.m. and I can't sleep, and I'm all by myself, and there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, and
that's true.
There's a lot of that happens too. A lot of the downtime is actually can be quite lonely and very isolating. But the flip side of that is that some of the things that we do are so magical. But yeah, I think my memorable, the things that I love about my job, and the most memorable parts of it are the people, being with working with extraordinary people in my job, and having incredible people on board, and just being, having the privilege of being able to look after them while they're on their way to do whatever they're off to do. So it really is a privilege to be able to do it, and I really, something I enjoy.
Yeah, and I think to be able to motivate yourself to do the exact same thing on a regular basis, and just putting yourself out there, is not that easy, to be very honest with you. I mean, to me, when I wear that uniform, I personally become a flight attendant. I'm no longer like Nidhi. I feel I'm a flight stewardess Nidhi, because it comes with so much responsibility. It's not just about all the fun and laughter, but there is so much responsibility that comes together with it. And you really have to put yourself out there, give your best at everything, because this is not a regular place of work where you will probably have a second chance to make that first impression, or take care of that passenger the second time. This is your only chance to tell the passenger that you care, and you don't want to miss that. So I think I can totally relate. relate to you. So there's something very interesting that you mentioned, and because a lot of people who watch the channel are cabin crew aspirants, and definitely see the good side of it. All the memorable experiences, travels, and perks, and going to concerts and things like that. But in your opinion, are there any challenges that they should also prepare themselves to deal with? Like you mentioned, just staying by yourself is something that you would have to deal with.
I think that some of the hardest bits, well, I know, we were talking earlier about it, I often say the hardest part of the job is being woken up, when you've been on a break and you may not have had much sleep when you were away in the slipboard. You've had to get on the aircraft, you might have had a break and had a little bit of sleep, but then someone comes and wakes you up. And you've got to get up, and then you have to go in, and within 10 minutes you can be dealing with passengers, and you need to be able to switch from being, feeling so tired, and having to go out and deliver really good service, because like you make the point, you have to. There is a lot of monotony in the job, but you have to be able to deal with people like it's the first time that you're dealing with. Like you have to really be able to switch yourself on. I think the challenges, the biggest things I would say, well, for some people, I guess it's different. For some people, it would be being away from family and friends, and missing. And I know that's something that most cabin crew would say. I mean, for me, I live away from my family anyway. I'm living in Sydney, my family are in Auckland, and I'm lucky enough to be home at the moment with my parents. But the hardest, one of the hardest things is learning to deal with conflict. Managing situations on board where you've got passengers who might be angry about their experience that they've had before they've got on their aircraft, because all companies, we all try to do the best. And as people, we try to do the best all the time, but sometimes we mess up. And so sometimes people get on the aircraft and they are already angry about something that's happened in their process of getting to the aircraft. And it might be something to do with us. Or it might just be that they, for whatever reason, have got stuff going on and they are not, it might not necessarily be you, or it might not be the airline that they're angry at. They might just be angry in general at life.
That's true.
And then you are the one that has to deliver them the news that they're not going to get their meal choice, or their entertainment's not working. I mean, cabin crew know the pain of passengers. When you've got a full aircraft, there's nothing you can do. The entertainment is just not working, or they've got an expectation of what might be going to happen for their flight, and that's not actually something that is, it's not something that's part of the service that you deliver or the resources that you have available. So just learning to deal with conflict with people, and actually learning to deal with it and not to take it personally, and learning to deal with it and not let your temper, not let your ego get in the way, not let your temper flare. Very true. Or actually just not crying. I had a passenger. I remember sitting there, like I was sort of kneeling next to him, and I was thinking, he wants me to cry. I could feel it. I was like, I'm not, he's obviously, my apology is not enough. I just thought, my goodness, this guy really
I've been there.
He wants to take me down. He wants to take me down. And I remembered, actually, it was lucky for me, it was on a day I was feeling quite resilient, so I was able to go through the situation with him. He was a very unhappy man, but I did end up in the crew workstation afterwards crying, because I had been so shocked by the course that he spoke to me. And I think I've only cried at work maybe, I can only think of maybe 3 or 4 times in 10 years. Like I've normally, I don't have a lot of problems at work, but on that day he really while I was able to, in the interaction with him, I was able to hold myself. But afterwards, I went off and I cried. And I was like, oh my God, that was it was interesting. And so I think that's some of the hardest stuff. Or look, one day I had a passenger in first class that had a few, she was sort of in a jovial kind of mood. She'd had a couple of drinks, and I mean, obviously we've got responsible service of alcohol, so we don't let it go too far, but she was telling me that she'd been told that she could have her friend from economy sit with her in first class, and that's not something that we do.
Yeah.
And she just would not take no for an answer. And I had, and you've got other passengers that you have to look after.
Absolutely.
As well. So,
yeah.
With us, we've got 14 in first class. One of the crew looks after 7 and you look after 7. And so obviously while you're trying to have these interactions with people, you've also got to be aware that you've got other people that are looking for your time and your attention and your care.
Yeah.
So learning to say no in a way that people understand that the answer is no, and there's no amount of negotiation that's going to happen that's going to change the answer. But also be respectful.
Yes.
But also hold your ground. It's a challenge. Those are the challenges. I think being sad and lonely in hotel rooms, away from your friends and away from your life, challenging, and your inner resilience, which may be high or low depending on what's happening in your own life, to deal with people on board who put you in challenging conversations and challenging situations. Those are the hard bits. It's the hard part of flying, and the waking up in the middle of the night when you don't want to. That's hard.
Sure, I can definitely relate to all of them for sure.
Yeah, that's it. I think people can overthink things too much. But actually, if the right people for the job will get the job because they're the right people for the job. So It's like when you have a natural care for people, like I genuinely, even 10 years on, and even though sometimes it is, you get jaded and, you have terrible flights where everything goes wrong, and maybe you're getting everything wrong. Like I get some days where I think, geez, I've been a superstar. It's been an amazing sector and I have just been the best flight attendant that ever lived. And then other times, when you're not, even if you've got stuff going on at home and you're maybe your confidence is a little bit knocked, or, you're not feeling resilient, and you get people that are unhappy and can't be, they won't be made happy. There's nothing you can do that's going to make them happy. And maybe you're dropping everything, and like you break a tray of glasses, or right at a time when you're so tired and you're so fed up and you've got to clean it up and you've got to sort it out, or you happen to be the one that walks past just as someone's throwing up, and it's the last thing you want to deal with. But it's all those things that actually I think good flight attendants just get on and deal with.
That's true. Yeah. That is so true.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to get in there and take care of it at the end of the day.
I felt that I was the right person for the job, and I actually said to some of my friends, I said, I feel like Qantas should employ me because I will love their passengers and I will do a wonderful job. Like it's my, it's a good job for my personality type.
Not just believing in yourself that you have that personality that would take care of the passengers, because I think that's really important that a lot of people miss. And this is something that I love sharing with my students. I think a lot of people actually go there to impress the interviewers, and it's not really the case. At the end of the day, you've got to actually take care of the passengers. You don't really have to take care of the interviewers, and that's the part that they don't end up showing. So I think what you mentioned there was really fantastic. That you're gonna love the passengers, you're gonna take care of them. So I think that itself is a great point. Yeah. So do you have a favorite destination? Like, is there a place that you could go always, ever and ever, again and again?
I'm sure anyone that's wanting to fly with Emirates will be very pleased to hear Dubai. We used to fly Dubai. We don't fly there anymore, but I absolutely love going to Dubai. And I'm not too sure what it is. Maybe I should have been an Emirates flight attendant. I don't know. I probably would have been. Yeah, absolutely used to love going to Dubai. I love this exotic smell in the air when you were down by Dubai Mall and there's all the shisha being, everyone's smoking shisha and the, the fountain that we go. And I don't know, there was just something that I really enjoyed about it up there. It must be some sort of a soul place for me. And I love the food.
The food is great. The food is great. Yeah. I love going to Dubai as well. On the contrary, actually, my favorite destination is Amsterdam. I loved Amsterdam.
So we don't fly you were a regular flight attendant. We don't we only go up to London, and in fact I have been to London as cabin crew since 2013 because our London-based crew pick up our passengers. So at the moment we call it kangaroo route goes through Singapore up to London. But the Australian-based crew take the aircraft up, and the London-based crew pick it up, and we just swap it over and go backwards and forwards. So we don't have any destinations in Europe at the moment, other than London.
Okay.
And then of course we I don't know what the other airlines are like, but we're trained up on different aircraft, so it depends which fleet you fly on as to what your destinations will be. Yeah. So I fly on our A380, and at the moment that goes to Singapore. We do seasonal Hong Kongs. We've got LA and Dallas. We've got the 787 Dreamliner that we've just recently received and started training up on, and that's doing. At the moment, it's doing things like Auckland returns. It was doing San Francisco. I think that was seasonal, but I'm not sure with everything that's just happened. I mean, obviously,
it's very volatile
the airlines
I live
in. We've got 150 aircrafts on the ground, and I don't even know where they are in hangars. So we're not flying anywhere at the moment. But we were going to be doing a seasonal Vancouver flying, which I was so looking forward to because on our other fleets, it's such a senior trip. You have to have been flying like 35 years to be the junior on those trips.
Ooh,
and
okay.
Oh yeah, I remember one day meeting a crew coming through in arrivals and just started chatting, and I said to him, "Oh, where have you come in from?" And he said, "Oh, Vancouver." I said, "Gosh, that must have been a very senior trip." He said, "Yes." He said, "I was doing the galley down the back, which would be considered the very junior position, and he'd been flying for 35 years."
Oh wow!
So that was the junior position. So he was the kid.
Wow! Yeah, sure. It is very different in terms of how the placement of the airline crew is in Qantas. And I remember you did mention when we were having a conversation earlier that Qantas only hires people who are Australian citizens or from New Zealand. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Or people that have, I know Australia and New Zealand citizens, or people. It must be people that have the right to work in Australia. There might be certain work visas, but that's because I know that's quite different. Say with airlines like Emirates, where you can be from anywhere and you can go in and work in their country. But Australia is quite different. So that's something that I would have to. I would. If anyone's listening to that information, go and do go and double check it.
Research.
But that's my
understanding.
For sure. You do have to have the right to work in Australia, so it's going to be Australia.
I think it's quite similar for like British Airways and other airlines which are Europe based as well, unless they're actually going to India or they're going to a particular country. You have to have work permit. You have to have the right to work in London if you want to become a cabin crew with British Airways, unless they're actually flying down to India or any part of Asia to do the recruitment. Yeah, but you're right. Emirates, Qatar work a little differently. Even Singapore Airlines works differently. They actually give you the work permit to come over and work. Yeah. Great. I'm having such an awesome conversation that I haven't realized that we've been speaking for almost an hour actually.
Oh wow.
So I think it's time to wrap it up a little bit. What would you tell to people who want to become cabin crew with any airline in general? From your experience, what is it that they should look out for when they're going for interviews, or in general, from your experience? Did you want to share that with us?
Look, I think there's certain characteristics that will make your life as a flight attendant a lot easier. I think having a genuine appreciation for other human beings is helpful, because there's definitely, I've met some crew that along the way that maybe don't enjoy don't enjoy interaction with other humans. So I was like, you want to really make sure that you are a people person when you go into the role, because you need to be able to having a desire to have good communication with other people is very helpful if you want to be a really great cabin crew member. Behavioural flexibility, that's the top value. When Qantas, on the when I had to write down what my top qualities were, I put behavioural flexibility, and that really, that's true for me. But also when I became a cabin crew member, I realised how valuable that is, because things change, and they change so quickly. And they change and change and change again. So you really need to be able to adapt. And that change can be in the way that, your procedures for the aircraft might change. We have standard operating procedures that we need to be on top of all the time, that change all the time, and you learn one thing and then you have to learn another. And also things like, you might think that you are going to work to go to on a 7-day Dallas trip, and you arrive at work and they say, no, you're now going to Singapore. That stuff like that doesn't happen that often, but it can happen. And you have to be able to adapt to things like that too. Or you might be up in Hong Kong, and they say, look, we've had an aircraft that's now unserviceable, and you'll be staying an extra night. And that extra night that you were staying might stuff up your holidays, because you might have been going to land in from work a day earlier and going straight on a holiday, or you might have had a family member's birthday party to go to. Or I remember one of the guys I flew with, he'd arranged his wife's surprise 30th birthday party on the day that we were meant to land, and he didn't end up landing that day because we all got stuck in LA. So I think being flexible around what your expectations of what's going to happen, because anything can happen in airlines. Anything can change. So I think just be very adaptable, like people, and be adaptable. They are two top things for anyone wanting to be cabin crew.
Awesome. I think that's fantastic. I think what I really, really like about this whole conversation, to be very honest with you, is how genuine you are with everything that you have shared, how personal you have been with all these experiences. And I think that's really important, because a lot of times, we tell people you should be adaptable, you should be flexible, you should do this and you should do that. But when they actually hear from someone who's been there, who's done that, it actually adds a very different perspective to the whole just saying that you should be adaptable, just saying you should be flexible. So I think I really, really appreciate the fact that you took time out to just, share everything that you could possibly share with us, from your experiences to, your genuine challenges that you face. And I absolutely loved every bit of this conversation, and I hope we can do more of these. But once again, thank you so much. And please, everyone, do follow her on her Facebook page. Do join her Facebook page. Do follow her on Instagram. I'm really happy to connect with her, and I'm sure she'll be happy to share information with all of you as well, and share her experiences. And we sincerely hope that things go up and running for the aviation industry very, very soon. This has not been the most favorable time of the year for the aviation industry and for cabin crew around the world. But I think we all just have to be positive, and as she mentioned, stay united. United by the wings. I think that's really important. So just spread positivity, and just encourage each other that things are going to get better, and we'll be up in the air very, very soon.
Yes, yeah. Look, thank you so much for having me, Nidhi. It's so nice to talk to you. Look, I hope that this is of some use to some of the future crew out there that are hoping to get their wings, and I would love to pass by any of them in the airports, and know that we're all one big family.
Absolutely. And on that note, you have to come visit me, and whenever I'm coming to Australia, I'm definitely seeing you.
Yeah. I'll see you in Singapore soon.
Definitely. Thanks once again, everyone. I really hope this video resonates with all of you. And if it does, do remember to like, share, and comment. And do not forget to press the notification bell for more video updates. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you still haven't. And I look forward to seeing all of you. And from both of us, stay happy, stay pretty, stay handsome, safe flights whenever we get up in the air. And we both love you all.
Bye.
Thank you.